Here are the top stories for today, May 25, 2021. The Philippines has so far received over 8.2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines since the start of its inoculation campaign, with more than half of these already administered. Beef up inoculation, the Octo Research Group says half of the population in Metro Manila and 6 other high-risk areas should be inoculated to achieve containment of COVID-19. Davao City bans non-essential gatherings in government offices and communities until the end of August. More areas are also tightening restrictions to prevent a spike in COVID-19 cases. And over in Africa, at least 20 persons were killed, while dozens others lost their homes following the eruption of a huge volcano in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The country has received over 8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines since the start of its vaccination campaign. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque made this announcement in a palace briefing today. The government also continues to make progress in its inoculation drive with over 4.3 million doses already administered. This figure includes 3.3 million vaccines used as first dose and 986,000 vaccines used as a second dose as of May 24. Among those vaccinated are around 1.3 million medical frontliners, 1.1 million senior citizens, and over 877,000 persons with comorbidities and over 9,000 frontline personnel in essential sectors. On a 7-day average, the Philippines ranks second in terms of administered vaccines at 170,069, next to Indonesia's 272,022. The Philippine National Police is one step closer in unmasking the culprit behind the reported sale of COVID-19 vaccines and vaccination slots, particularly in San Juan City and Mandaluyong. More on this from Marita Moahen.
The Philippine National Police now has a person of interest over the reported sale of certain COVID-19 vaccine brands and vaccination slots. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar said authorities identified a person who offered a friend 2 brands of vaccines for about 12,000 to 15,000 pesos through a social media messaging app. The same person claimed that he has contacts in the cities of San Juan and Mandaluyong, which is why he could easily get vaccines and guarantee slots for vaccination. Despite the suspect having deactivated all his social media accounts, Eleazar assured the public that he will face the full force of the law for his illegal activity. Eleazar reminded the people that the government's COVID-19 vaccination program is free. The public can report illegal activities via the e-Sumbong platforms that includes the PNP's official hotlines, social media accounts, and email.
Patuloy po ang isinasagawang investigasyon ng CIDG at ACG at lahat ng anggulo ay aming tinututukan kasama ng posibilidad na ito ay isang online scam lang o kaya ay politically motivated para siraan ang mga nabanggit na local government units. Ganun pa man, hindi po titigil ang PNP para tugisin at mapanagot ang mga taong nasa likod nito. Hinihikayat din po namin ang ating mga kabayan na ipagbigay alam sa inyong PNP through our isumbong kung makakatanggap kayo ng ganitong klaseng offer, lalo na sa inyong mga social media accounts.
Meanwhile, the city government of Manila has banned the sale of COVID-19 vaccines even by companies, institutions, or organizations for gain or profit. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno said this is to protect the general public from those who intend to profit from the COVID-19 pandemic. Violators shall be penalized 5,000 pesos and imprisoned for not more than 6 months. Officers of corporations or other juridical entities responsible for the violation shall be charged and penalized. Business licenses shall be revoked and they will be banned from doing business in Manila. For his part, Mayor Francis Zamora assured that no one in the San Juan City government is involved in the selling of COVID-19 jobs and vaccine slots. The city has an ongoing probe on the alleged sale of vaccines and priority slots. Zamora maintained that San Juan has a very organized vaccine procedure which even does not allow walk-ins. He reiterated that the vaccine shots in San Juan is free for all residents and non-residents who are working in the city. The city government has already vaccinated more than 23,000 or about 26.9% of its target population. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
The Philippines can expect to benefit from excess COVID-19 vaccines that will be donated by the United States government to the COVAX facility. Philippine Ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez said the United States is expected to donate around 2 million doses plus another 2 million from Pfizer. Romualdez said the U.S. had already donated 80 million of the promised 4 billion doses to the COVAX facility. He said the Philippines is definitely a recipient of the donations, with some expected to be delivered by the second week of June. He said the United States is close to achieving herd immunity, which it targets to happen by July 4, the American Independence Day. The Philippines is also working to get booster shots from pharmaceutical companies Moderna and Pfizer until early next year. The country is also trying to get to work with the Novavax company. The government should prioritize vaccination of half of the population of Metro Manila and 6 other areas to contain COVID-19. This as the Octa Research Group tagged these as high-risk areas. In its latest monitoring report, the group said aside from Metro Manila, also considered as high-risk areas are Tuguegarao City, Santiago City, Imus City, Baguio City, Cebu, and Cainta based on their average daily attack rate. These 7 areas would need 15.96 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to fully inoculate around 7.98 individuals. Octa also recommended the inoculation of 20 to 30% of the population in moderate risk areas and 40% of the population in moderate to high risk areas. The country has so far administered over 4 million vaccine doses since the start of its inoculation drive in March. Moving to COVID-19 updates abroad, Japan on Monday launched a mass vaccination campaign in at least 2 provinces in preparation for the Olympics and Paralympic Games. 2 state-run COVID-19 vaccination centers were opened in Tokyo and Osaka province to speed up inoculation efforts with just 2 months remaining before the staging of the Olympics. Authorities have set a target of 10,000 people getting vaccines a day in Tokyo and 5,000 in Osaka. Provincial authorities are also mulling to open independent vaccination centers, with Aichi, Gunma, and Miyagi provinces taking the lead. Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato said the government will continue to make all-out efforts so that as many people as possible can be inoculated quickly. Japan is set to host the Olympics from mid-July. The world's biggest games were scheduled for 2020 summer, but were delayed due to the raging coronavirus. And here's the latest look at COVID-19 figures around the world. Still to come, the palace reiterates that the government's bilateral approach to settle the West Philippine Sea row with China is working. And the Justice Department and the Philippine National Police will work together to deal with cases of police violations in anti-drug operations. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. Malacanang maintains that the Philippines has not lost territory to China since President Rodrigo Duterte opted to use bilateral approach to settle the West Philippine Sea dispute 5 years ago. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque made this comment after Vice President Leni Robredo urged the government to employ a multilateral approach in the West Philippine Sea issue. Roque belied Robredo's claim that bilateral talks with China is not enough to protect the country's interest. Aside from not losing territory, he said the Philippines continues to have no conflict with China. Roque said Duterte might pursue his present policy on the WPS after former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile concurred that the president is pursuing the right approach on the dispute. He also said Duterte thought of convening the National Security Council and former presidents of the country to discuss the WPS dispute. The Justice Department and the Philippine National Police joined hands in dealing with the cases of law enforcers allegedly liable for violations in anti-drug operations. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara and PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar both agreed to the measure in a meeting at the DOJ main office on May 21. Guevara said the DOJ will be given access to the records of the cases which involve hundreds of cops that are facing either administrative or criminal liabilities based on the probe of the PNP's Internal Affairs Service. The two agencies also discussed areas of immediate concerns, including collaboration on a review of anti-drug operations involving deaths, extrajudicial killings, and other related cases. Eleazar also expressed eagerness to work with the DOJ in a bid to wipe out scalawags in the police force in order to uplift its image as the people's protector. The DOJ and the PNP will also execute a formal pact on the measure. Some 1,400 out of a total of 1,700 local government units in the country have passed resolutions declaring communist terrorist groups as persona non grata. This is part of the whole-of-government approach in curbing insurgency in the country. In a virtual briefing on Monday, Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya, one of the spokespersons of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, said 6 regions have a 100% declaration of the communist terrorists as unwelcome. Meanwhile, 9 out of the 17 LGUs in Metro Manila have already followed suit. Malaya also said programs of the DILG continue in a bid to attain genuine peace. For instance, a total of 12.3 billion pesos or 75% of the Barangay Development Program's budget of 16.44 billion pesos funding over 1,700 projects was already released to 822 recipient LGUs. Some 6,000 former rebels have also been provided with financial assistance through the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program or ECLIP. In our business news, the Department of Energy or DOE has vowed to review the transaction between a unit of Udena Corporation and Shell Philippine Exploration or SPEX on the Malampaya gas field. This aspect sold its 45% stake in Malampaya to Udena subsidiary Malampaya Energy XP at $380 million. In a statement, Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi said, once the transaction has been completed at the consortium level, it will still be submitted to the DOE for its review and approval. Once this deal succeeds, Udena will have 90% ownership in the Malampaya gas field as it already acquired Chevron's 45% stake in Malampaya. PNOC Exploration Corp., a subsidiary of state-owned Philippine National Oil Company, has a 10% interest in the Malampaya gas field. Malampaya energizes 30% of the country's power requirement. However, the country's main source of natural gas is projected to be nearly depleted by the year 2027. Up next, Mimaropa touts the legacy of the Duterte administration in a pre-SANA event. And Davao City bans non-essential gatherings in government offices and communities until August 31st. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Mimaropa region is on its way to further development and recovery from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic with the help of the Duterte administration. This as the government presented the legacies of President Rodrigo Duterte in the region during a pre-State of the Nation address held on Tuesday. The president's projects were highlighted in the pre-SANA held at the provincial capital grounds in Calapan City, Oriental Mindoro. Among the government's moves to recover from the pandemic in Mimaropa were investments in agriculture through the Plant program, support for the services sector, and improvements in healthcare such as the establishment of malasakit centers in Palawan and Romblon. Duterte's legacies also include the inauguration of the Lisap Bridge in Bongabon, Oriental Mindoro, the improvements at the Puerto Princesa International Airport, and the creation of the Mimaropa Regional Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. The pre-sauna, organized by the Presidential Communications Operations Office, dubbed as Pamana ng Pagbabago Kasama sa Pamana or Kasama sa Pamana Pre-Sauna. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao has sympathized with the passing of veteran Mindanao peace advocate Father Eliseo Mercado, OMI. Mercado died at the Cotabato Regional and Medical Center Sunday afternoon from cardiac arrest while under isolation due to COVID-19 infection. BARMM Chief Minister Ahud Ibrahim said Mercado will be remembered as a pillar of peace who steadfastly championed the cause of the Bangsamoro people. Mercado once served as chair of the National Peace Council that worked to resume talks with the national government and the rebel fronts. He figured prominently in the peace overture between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front as chair of the GPH-MILF Independent Ceasefire Monitoring Committee. Before his demise, Mercado was also president of the Notre Dame University in Cotabato City. More local government units are eyeing to maintain stricter quarantine protocols as COVID-19 cases continue to rise in their respective areas. Chris Mundo has the story.
Mayor Joseph Evangelista is considering placing Kidapawan City under enhanced community quarantine to curb the rising cases of COVID-19 infections. The city, now under modified GCQ, recorded 39 new infections as of Monday afternoon. The mayor noted that many forms of viral transmissions are happening within local households. He said all isolation and quarantine facilities are about 83% full. The mayor also urged everyone to get vaccinated because this would save lives. In General Santos City, shopping malls and other non-essential establishments temporarily stopped operations starting Tuesday, May 25, as the city reverts to the stricter GCQ until June 30. Mayor Ronel Rivera said the restriction of movement of residents aims to minimize person-to-person contact in the wake of the rising cases of the disease in the area. Existing measures such as the border lockdown, no movement Sunday, and the total liquor ban will remain in effect with additional restrictions. The city recorded 37 new cases as of Monday, bringing its active infections to 560, the highest among cities and municipalities in Soc-Sargen. Meanwhile, Apayao Province will remain under modified ECQ until May 31. To date, the province has recorded a total of 1,105 cases with 8 deaths. The provincial government advised the public to follow health protocols and limit their movement to essential only, while the province is under extended MECQ. In other news, Davao City Mayor Sara has stopped the conduct of in-person, non-essential events among barangays, government offices, including government-owned and controlled corporations based in the city, starting May 26 until August 31. In a radio interview, Duterte said the order was based on the RT-PCR results showing many of those who contracted COVID-19 had attended government events. The mayor's order does not cover non-emergency activities, training, and seminars conducted exclusively online. The exemption also applies to all disaster and emergency activities, including contactless distribution of financial, food, and non-food items. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
In more news overseas, at least 22 people have died after Mount Nyiragongo, one of the world's most active volcanoes, erupted in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo on Saturday. The volcano spewed out a river of lava that threatened the nearly 2 million residents of Goma City in the North Kivu region. 9 victims died in a road accident as people fled from the affected area, while 2 more were burned to death by the lava. 4 inmates were killed while trying to escape from a prison. 7 more people died after being exposed to the poisonous gas. the lava flow finally stopped by Sunday morning. At least 10 villages have been devastated by the said eruption. In a report from UNICEF, at least 25,000 people were displaced in Sake, a town northwest of Goma. More than 150 children were separated from their families, and 170 children are feared missing. The Department of Tourism, or DOT, has lauded local hotels that recently received the prestigious 2021 Traveler's Choice Award from TripAdvisor, the world's largest travel destination planning platform. Along with the top-rated hotel properties around the world, the highly coveted awards honor establishments that have delighted and served visitors exceptionally amid the pandemic. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said local hotels remain true to their mission of providing exemplary Filipino hospitality to guests. She said the award is a testament to the DOT's success in lessening the impact of the pandemic on the hospitality industry and driving its recovery. Last March, Boracay's White Beach made it to the 12th spot, while El Nido, Palawan's Nakpan Beach ranked 18th on the top 25 beaches Asia category of the TripAdvisor Traveler's Choice 2021 Best of the Best Awards. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. The Philippines has so far received over 8.2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines since the start of its inoculation campaign, with more than half of these already administered. Beef up inoculation, the Octa Research Group says half of the population in Metro Manila and 6 other high-risk areas should be inoculated to achieve containment of COVID-19. Davao City bans non-essential gatherings in government offices and communities until the end of August. More areas are also tightening restrictions to prevent a spike in COVID-19 cases. And over in Africa, at least 20 persons were killed, while dozens others lost their homes following the eruption of a huge volcano in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.